Hello, and welcome to my podcast. I'm Naomi, and this is NJ Knits, where I talk about my knitting. It's so wonderful to see you today. I am in a particularly high energy mood. I've got 2 drinks in front of me, half a slice of toast with a little bit of vegan boursin, and I'm feeling it. I've got this on again because I've essentially just lived in this since I made it. So what I'm wearing is the Korshavn Slipover by lovely Tonje. It's either Tonje or Sonia of Streak Cafe. And I did a couple modifications to it, but I've also got on neon trousers. So essentially, folks, we're living our best lives. That's what's happening for me. Toast, drinks, neon trousers. And by drinks I mean water and juice. They have this company here in Canada that does juice that's out of like vegetables and fruits that would get thrown away because they're like not nice looking. In the UK we have a thing called Oddbox where you get like the not nice looking fruit and veg in a box for kind of cheap that would normally get thrown away. So here they make it into delicious juice. And this juice has sweet potato in it, which I'm on board for. My partner calls it jibber jabbering. That is what we will be engaging with today. So, welcome. It's wonderful to see you, and I am excited to connect with you for a few moments about knitting. And by a few moments, I mean more than likely 1 hour. I've got a couple of Zoom dates later today, one with my sister and mother, who will be making cookies, and another with my father, with whom I shall be studying Old French, which is like Old English except French. I don't know why I said that, but anyway. I feel like it's like about our own language. We know there were old versions, but you kind of just think like French, well, that's just French. They had old versions too. Whoa! And if you study them, my father has a deep love for the most useless languages in existence. So he studied Latin and Greek. And, you know, I say useless, it's a joking term, right? It's not useless to study Latin and Greek, but in terms of, if we're defining usefulness by whether or not it can be used to communicate with real live human beings, Old Latin and Old Ancient Greek, I would say, under that definition, quite useless. And when he went to do his PhD, he chose it based on, and when he was doing his PhD, he was doing it in mathematics, but for some reason they required you to do languages, I think so that you could interact in the global setting with papers and things. Anyways, jibber jabbering has commenced. The point I'm trying to make is he chose his PhD program based on who would allow him to carry on with Latin and Greek and not force him to study modern languages. Which I find hilarious. So I think he has a deep love for dead languages. So anyways, that's why we're studying Old French together. He speaks Latin, I speak French. Together we thought, Old French? Easy peasy. And that's what we're doing. He teaches me a little bit about maths sometimes. It was born out of the lockdown when I wasn't working, and I was like, teach me something. I need to do something with my brain. Anyway, let's begin with the knitting. Bit of toast. I'm fairly certain it's Tonje. So this is a surprise episode. I didn't think that I would be podcasting again until after I left Calgary. I'm leaving next week, but I just felt the surging desire to speak to you. So it's happening. There are some things to be spoken about, so about them I shall speak. I'm going to read you my favorite comment from the last video. I had some lovely comments. Thank you so much. And some new viewers who've just joined. So thank you so much for joining. I'm hoping to get to 400 subscribers. That would be really cool. And once we get to 500, because I'm going to push it and say 500, I'm going to do a big giveaway because I'm going to be so excited to have 500 subscribers. It will make me so excited. So I'm going to do a big giveaway. It'll be from, I don't know. Depending on when it happens, you'll either get some yarn from Czech Republic or you'll get some yarn from Morocco. I don't know if you can get, I'm sure you can get yarn anywhere. But if it happens soon, Czech Republic. Anyways, so the last video, I had some lovely well-wishers saying that they hoped I rested, and that was wonderful of them. This was my feistiest comment, which I loved. This is Soxy Nana Alice. Hi. She says, okay, did you really say too much chocolate in your hot chocolate? Last video I had some hot chocolate and I was saying it was very thick. Anyways, she says, okay, did you really say too much chocolate in your hot chocolate? Do you have a delirious fever? You know, here in Canada, it's not a traditionally old-fashioned hot chocolate without a handful of mini marshmallows on top. And a shot of Bailey's if you're over 18. Loving all your whips. Can't wait to see the next section of your Welcome to the Jungle. Cheers and safe travels. Thanks, Soxy Nana. I think your name is probably Alice, but I like the name Soxy Nana. I think it's really cool. I'm going to start with whips, because I have no finished objects. This is still my only finished object. I almost have a hoe, so I'll show you that first. This is my almost hoe. I just need to do a toe. A hoe minus toe. As you can tell, a lot better, much more energy. Don't have that sickly look in my eyes anymore. However, still got a bit of this mucus. I can't recommend a neti pot enough. If you've never tried it, it's very odd, but buy the actual branded one. I tried buying like a cheaper off-brand one before, years ago, and not very good. Didn't work very well and I didn't like it. But the branded one, it's so good. As a person that has suffered all my life from extreme allergies, hay fever, and just general I easily get sinus infections and ear infections. The reason I went to the doctor was because of my ear was blocked, and hearing is very important to my work. So she was like, get an neti pot, use it. She also gave me a little bit of some medicine as well. But life-changing. I normally have to use like nasal strips to sleep at night because my nose is like always blocked by the end of the day. Neti pot, morning and the evening, I don't even have to use nasal strips. It's amazing. I don't have to like peel it off and accidentally rip off some of my skin on my nose. I mean, my life has changed. So, why that came up just then, I don't know. But this is my sock. I'm making a striped sock out of 2 skeins of Daughter of a Shepherd, and this is their Ram Jam Sport. It's a sport weight, but I would say it is, I believe it's woolen spun. It definitely looks woolen spun to me. There's no documentation verifying this, but it looks woolen spun. It feels woolen spun. Woolen spun is, again, that slightly airier way of spinning wool, as opposed to the more like dense way of spinning wool, which is worsted spun. So I have them in 2 different colorways. I think they're just natural colorways. This is good. They're just basically gray and sort of a browny gray sort of color. And this is a 56 stitch sock using 2.25 mil needles. I'm using 9-inch circulars. These are Addis. I prefer using Chow Goose. I just prefer Chow Goose for everything. I love the tips. I do like use my thumb or my finger to move the needle, but I don't mind the super sharp things when I do that. Maybe I have a callus on my finger. I definitely have a callus here for where this is how I generally hold wool, like this. And I definitely have a callus here, which I find quite amusing. I always do center pull balls. I find it easier when I'm walking around to do center pull balls, because I can carry them in a side bag, and I can pull from them and they won't like tangle around each other and move around. The project bag they're in is if you buy anything from Lucy and Yak, you get a bag made out of scraps they're a clothing brand in the UK, and they make pretty popular dungarees, but they make other things as well. And you get a bag, and I always use them as project bags. They're very lightweight, they're always fun and interesting colors, and that's it. These are my project bags. I don't own one single project bag that is a project bag. Not for any particular reason. I'm not against project bags. I've never found them particularly necessary, I suppose. What is necessary? Let's define it. Let's carry on. This is usually my project bag is one of these types of things. This one says, I could eat you up in Czech, and it's from the Botanic Gardens, and it is a plant that eats things. What are they called? Carnivorous plant. I could eat you up. Hey, hey, hey. Okay, that is all. Sorry. Ooh, calm down. So, what I was saying about this is 2.25 mil needle, 56 stitch sock, still huge on me. I must just have the loosest gauge in the history of mankind, because I can tell you that my foot is not like, my ankle and foot, it's not like super skinny. It's not like I have tiny ankle feet. But it just must be my gauge, because look at the level of looseness on this sock. It's loose. I don't hate it. I don't mind it at all. It's fine. I tried to make it a bit longer than I normally make socks, but it just blows my mind that people can use 60, even 64 stitches to make socks. So yeah, it fits actually around my foot better than it fits around my ankle. So I guess my foot's a little wider than my ankle. But you know, maybe my gauge maybe changes a lot as I knit in different situations. I don't know. I definitely have a different gauge continental than I do English. I usually knit socks English unless something's hurting, and then I change to continental. I'm just about to start the toe. I'm doing a round toe. I generally, with round toes, you're supposed to, with round toes, if you look them up, they'll usually start with you knit 8 stitches and then decrease, and 8 stitches and decrease, and then you do 8 rounds. Maybe again, this is because my gauge is loose. I find that makes the toe too long, and I like a sort of shorter, more concise toe. So I generally start with 5. By saying generally implies that like I'm pretty consistent and I do the same thing all the time, and that's definitely not the case. But it feels like I usually do 5. Sometimes I'll start with 8 and then I'll like skip a number, so I'll do like, or I'll start with 6 and then I'll skip 5 and go straight to 4. But I think this time I'm just going to go with 5 and see how that goes, and then I can have in my head like round toe, start with 5 stitches, then decrease, and then 5 rounds of no decrease, 4 stitches and decrease, 4 rounds of no decrease, 3 stitches then decrease, 3 rounds of no decrease. You get the idea. These are stripy, and I will show you all the way around because I've used this lovely technique so that there's no jog in the stripes, and that's exciting. Also, the way that I did this is a Fish Lips Kiss heel, which I enjoy mostly because I just have it really well memorized and I don't find any problem with the fit. and I like the look of a short row heel. I think I maybe like how a shadow wrap heel looks a little bit better. I think it makes this bit a little bit wider. The fish lips kiss does kind of look like fish lips, and I would maybe like it to be slightly wider, but anyways, this is the one that's memorized, so I just generally do it because I make socks, usually while walking around. But look at the lack of hole there. And that is due to also lack of hole on this side. I usually have a little hole, and I usually have to like tighten it up. But I think that's due to the fact that I'm doing stripes. So I was able to sort of tighten it up and then pull the next color out. As I was doing this, I was like, I'm going to forget why this hole isn't happening. And I have kind of forgotten. But it was to do with the stripes. The stripes made it so that I could really tighten it up as I was going, and I never ended up with a heel, which was very cool. I was very much into that. This wool is very rustic. Excuse me. This wool is very rustic, and it is so warm. I was talking a while ago about wanting to make warmer handmade socks, because I usually, when I'm outdoors in the evening, at night, for work, I don't wear hand knit socks. If it's really seriously cold, I wear store-bought, like technical, like mountaineering style socks, because it can get really cold. And I was like, not that I'm hoping to like make socks that are warmer than, you know, mountaineering socks, but I wanted to try and find warmer socks. These, when Inga from Knitting Traditions, who's a lovely podcaster, talks about wool giving warmth, I understand what she's talking about when I put these on, because as soon as they're on, whew, I'm immediately warmer. So they are very warm. I'm so excited to have these and to use them, to feel my feet getting warmer. It'll be interesting to see how much leftover I have. I was hoping to get 2 pairs of socks out of this. I don't think I will. It's 2 50-gram skeins, but we'll see. So that's all I have to say about these. I think. Lovely socks, stripy socks. I was a little worried that I made the stripes too thin, that they would have been more aesthetically pleasing with slightly thicker stripes, but I think I'm over that worry now. So cool. One thing is, I will probably have extra wool left over from finishing my second Swan Lake sock. I'll put a picture here. So maybe if I don't have enough for a full sock, I could combine these with that wool, because that's also very rustic. It's a very different wool. It's single ply, and I think it's more dense. The wool is more dense than this, so it might not be woolen spun, but you know, we could finagle things. Sorry. Next up on the WIP train, I decided I deserve to have another podcast, because I've reached an important moment in this Welcome to the Jungle sweater, and that is the build-up. That is, it is now in the round. Folks, this jumper is in the round. So, it's a top-down construction, and instead of, because the collar is knit on afterwards, you kind of do the short rows. So like if you were to do, say, a collared jumper with short rows, you might, one way of construction is to like knit the collar, then do some short rows at the back, and then carry on knitting in the round. That's one way of constructing it. This one is constructed, because you don't have the collar at the beginning, this one is constructed by just going back and forth and doing those short rows. Basically, I mean short rows. They're not short rows, they're just back and forth, flat knitting. And then finally joining in the round, and that creates that higher at the... So it's quite a wide collar, to be fair. But I haven't picked up the stitches anyways. So, ta-da! So this is the Welcome to the Jungle sweater by Pop Knit, who is Katja. And a phenomenal jumper. Like, it just looks like the most amazing thing. And it is. It's really cool. It's totally reversible. So you've got blue leopard spots here and pink ones over here. It's all double knitting, and it's all double knitting with color work. And because it's animal print, it's like non-memorizable color work. So this is the most focused knit I've ever done, and it's the longest taking knit. This when I was doing the short rows, took me 1 hour every row. And it's only getting longer because I'm still increasing for the sleeves. It'll get longer and longer and longer. So yes, the sleeves are currently here, and they're this big. I'm making the size medium, but my gauge is a little bit looser than the gauge in the pattern. So because my partner's somewhere between a medium and a large, my gauge is always a little bit looser. So if someone's in between, I'll be okay with my gauge and then just knit a smaller size. So because I prefer that to going down a needle size and knitting the correct size, because it's just less knitting. This is already on 3mm needles, so it's small, and it's done with Arwetta, 2 strands, one for each color. So it's like a single strand, but the jumper is 2. If you were to knit something with 2 strands of Arwetta held double, it would feel the same thickness as this feels. Yes, so double knitting, fantastic. Jumper, fantastic. Pattern, fantastic. Here's what I have to say about it. So, for some reason, my other sleeve, so here's this one sleeve, and it's very nice. You've got some leopard print, and it's making some more leopard print. Phenomenal. And here's the other sleeve. Do you know what? I take it all back. I don't know what I'm talking about. No, it's not the sleeve that's the problem. It's the front section that's the problem. What was happening was... No, that still works. I have no idea, honestly, and I can't even find the part that felt like it was wrong anymore. So let's just take that all and let's just put it in the bin, because I don't know what I'm talking about. And I also don't know what the issue is anymore. There may yet be an issue that I am also unable to notice at this moment, or it may be that I was incorrectly noticing an issue. I found it. I don't know how this happened, but if you see here, this doesn't look particularly like the rest of the patterns here, and it isn't. It's been like, the pattern has been like restarted in a way, because you can see the other front piece here, and that looks all very neat and leopard spotty. And this, which is great because it's right at the very front top of the jumper, which is the perfect place for it to be. This here, it's like, it's just, doesn't know what it's doing. And I have no idea why that happened. I honestly have no idea. I still have no idea what I did wrong. None of that makes any sense. Because there are no more front pieces. Once you join in the round, there's no front piece. There's just a front. It's a front section, sleeves, and a back section. So I still have no idea why this occurred. But you know, what I might do is just like, because what makes it look off, yeah, is like these little like single stripey areas. So maybe what I'll do is I'll ladder down. I mean, ladder down in double knitting color work. Fun times. But maybe what I'll do is ladder down and it might just need to be these 3 sets of like single stripes. And I'll just have a look at the color work and I'll just like finagle this to look more like a lump instead of like random stripes. Because we're not on the zebra print yet. And we don't want to be mixing our prints here. I mean, this is a mixed print jumper. So I don't know how much of that I'm going to delete because a lot of that was just me being really confused and trying to explain a pattern to you and finding out that that wasn't irrelevant. However, what we've got out of this is I still have no idea what I did wrong. I'm still following the chart very carefully. And I did something wrong because it looks weird and it's not right. It was wrong as I was knitting. I knew it was wrong as I was knitting it because I was like, that's not, you know, the verification thing of looking underneath and seeing like, oh, this is the right thing because I'm supposed to be going on top of a blue one and I'm going on top of the blue one, so I'm good. It was all wrong. So I was like, this is wrong. This is certainly wrong. But I just kept going because I didn't know what else to do. That's the problem. When you have no idea what's going on and you're quite confused, anything that goes wrong, you just don't know what else to do. But my advice is always just keep going and pretend like everything's fine. Eventually, you'll either work out what you did wrong, work out a way to fix whatever you did wrong and have no idea still what you did wrong, which is my situation, or it will actually just be fine and it's fine. Those are the 3 things that are going to happen if you just keep knitting and pretend like everything's fine. You'll work out what you did wrong, it'll just be fine, or you'll work out a way to fix it. But freaking out in the moment and stopping and trying to fix it immediately usually doesn't work for me. Anyways, so that's the welcome to the jungle sweater. I've joined in the round. I'm very proud of myself. I'm currently on row 31 out of 48. So they do keep getting wider, so it'll be slower and slower as I go, but I'm more than halfway through the leopard spots. And then I get to move on to the swirls, which should be slightly easier because the color work kind of, you know, follows a trajectory as opposed to just being very random. So that's that. And my last WIP is the Honey Clutch by Petite Knit. Ever since this came out, I was like, that is cool. I don't use clutches. I don't use makeup bags. I don't even have project bags. I'm not really much of a bag person. I have my little bag that I showed on a previous podcast, and I take that everywhere, and then I have backpacks, and that's pretty much my life. And shoppers. But I just love this honey clutch. I just love it so much. I just think it's amazing. So I'm going to make it, and we'll see what I do with it, but I'm going to make it because it's also a small project and it's amazing. However, here's my WIP. This is the bottom. I'm ready to pick up stitches to do the rest. It's knit in, this is just double knitting. So this is plain double knitting, not colored double knitting. I hated this so much. And I don't know why. I've done double knitting before. I'm obviously currently doing a big color work double knitting. I've done like plain double knitting on Petite Knit stuff before. The Mod T, the collar is in double knitting, and the button placket Check out that terminology. The button placket is in double knitting. Didn't hate it. Didn't hate it at all. I abhorred this. I don't know if it was just a mood thing or what. It was going so slowly. It's done on 2.5 mil needles. So it's kind of like making a sock, but instead of a sock, you make a bag. These are my favorite needles, my ChiaoGoo interchangeables. Nice and pointy, so you can pick up that mohair strand. Oh, sorry, I'm knitting it in Arwetta Classic in the color 27. And I'm knitting it in, this is Osterman silk mohair. I got in Prague. I got both of these yarns in Prague. This I originally got to be the frill on my Gibson ruffle blouse. Didn't match because I got it without having a picture or anything. I just got it thinking this would match. Color memory is not really a thing. Anyways, so I was like, well, now I have to use it for something else. So I bought this Arwetta and I decided to make the honey clutch. Because also this is quite rough mohair. I don't know how much I would love this. I'm not very sensitive to wool, so it would probably be fine. But it's not like amazing soft mohair. So I was like, part of me resisting the honey clutch was like, why would you use mohair on like an accessory? Like, sure, it looks beautiful, but like it's mohair. Like it's gonna like, especially a bag, it's gonna like get popped around places, probably get, anyways. So I thought, perfect. This is like quite a scratchy mohair. It was quite cheap from almost like a big boxy type crafting place in the mall in Prague. And then this is Arwetta, which is quite cheap as well. So I thought, great, I'm going to make the honey clutch. And I don't know why I hated this so much. What I do when I'm knitting something is I'll check the length like every 2 seconds, and it gets annoying. So I just put a stitch marker in when I'm halfway through, and then I can just like fold it and be like, oh, okay, I'm done now. And that's a much better way of doing it, because then I'll look at it and be like, no, you can't check the measurement. You're nowhere near like double the space. So anyways, it's done now. I went for a long walk yesterday and I just brought this with me. So I just did this. And it was so much easier to do while walking because I didn't hate it. I was just doing some stuff with my hands while walking, which I love. But sitting and doing this like while watching TV, something about it just made me angry. I hated it so much. So anyways, I did most of the second half yesterday while walking. It's so tiny. I don't know what it was. I also discovered that double knitting, single color double knitting, is much faster knitting continental, because when I knit, I throw generally. So I do, I'll do this to get it in the front and then to get it in the back and front and back. But I also do the same movement to wrap the yarn. So it's the same amount of movement for me to move the yarn to the front and the back as it is to actually wrap it for a stitch. So when I'm doing double knitting, it's like I'm doing an extra like almost stitch level movement in order to just pass that slipped stitch along. And when I'm knitting continental, I just moved the needle, not the yarn. That was weird. When I'm knitting continental, I hold it above the yarn, the work like this. Like I usually have quite a bit. And so it's not as big of a movement to just move the yarn this way or that way. That probably didn't make sense. I made a little video of it on my Instagram, which is Naomi Joy Knits. And so is my Ravelry is NJ Knits podcast. And my Gmail is the same as my Ravelry. Didn't say that at the beginning. So that was interesting to find out it's much faster to do continental. And continental while walking is a bit more tricky for me. It's not as much in my muscle memory. But it was kind of a fun challenge to do some continental knitting whilst walking. And it's done now. So I get to pick up stitches and do some honeycomb brioche, which I've never done before. And I'm very excited about. So hooray. I'll have to get back to the double knitting for the top bit, But we'll see, maybe I won't hate it. I don't know why I hated it so much. Maybe it's the small needles. It might be the small needles. I think I maybe hate double knitting with such small needles. It felt like I was getting quite a tight gauge. You can see my gauge changes, because this is when I was doing it English. I'm of a much looser gauge English, because I'm more experienced, I guess. I don't know. I'm not going to say why. I'll just do. And then this is where I started doing continental. It got really tight, and then I was like, all right, let's calm down. Let's try and loosen up our continental knitting a little bit. And then I kind of loosened it a little bit. That'll block out. It's a bag. It's the bottom of the bag. It's fine. So that's that. I found it really amusing how much I hated this, actually. I was like, wow, I really hate this. But a walk solves all things. You get bored of too much stockinette and bored, walk. Even on a big jumper, I will do that. If I'm like tired and I'm doing the body and it's like a huge jumper and I'm just tired of doing the stock, just walk it out. Just go for a walk, long walk, sort that out. Because like you just need like a bum bag or a belt, tuck all that jumper in there, and then just knit. And you don't have to worry about all the weight hanging off your needles whilst walking. Knitting belts are a very old-fashioned thing. They're a long-established tradition. People in the Highlands used to knit huge amounts of things whilst walking. Walking and knitting, beautiful. So those are all my WIPs, my 3 WIPs that I have in this country. I do have one skein of yarn that I got for Christmas that I haven't done anything with. I don't plan on for a while, probably. It'll be a decoration for some time, and then I'll work out what I'm going to do with it. I am still on a year from stash, but I do have more acquisitions. I've been stressing about this jumper, and so here is the progress on the stress situation. So, the acquisition I had when I first came here was I got some more yarn of this yarn that I had at home in my stash that I really wanted to make a jumper out of, but I didn't have enough yarn for. I had 400 meters, and it wasn't even quite enough. I had under 400 meters. It wasn't even quite enough to make a slipover, which was my sort of initial thought. When I first bought the yarn, I wanted to buy a sweater's quantity, and then I had decision paralysis and just was like, whatever, I'll just buy 2 and leave. And that was not helpful, because then I ended up with 2 balls of beautiful yarn that I wanted to make something with, and I didn't really have anything I could make with that quantity. So I was like, it doesn't count. I'm just getting it to be able to use the stuff that is in my stash. So I got they had some more of this yarn, which is made by a dyer who no longer dyes anymore, so it's very much limited edition. But they still had some of this color way in the shop. So I bought all they had, which was 3 skeins. I balled one of them up. I did a swatch. And I did a swatch with cables. I think I had this swatch last week, maybe, to show you. I'm covering this bit up because this is the plot twist. So here's my swatch. I was considering doing a cable jumper. It's really rustic. It's a really structured wool. I'm in love with it, but I'm really worried about choosing a pattern that's going to muddle the wool, or choosing a pattern that the wool will muddle the pattern. I want both the pattern and the wool to shine. I want it to be amazing, and that's why I'm creating such a problem for myself. So I did this skein, and then I was like, I'm going to ball up a second skein. Why did I decide that? I can't remember. Maybe I was thinking I want to see how they look together, see how they, if I alternate them, what they look like. Turns out, second skein, very different in color. Look at the difference. This isn't shadow. This is the difference in the color of these 2 skeins. And now that I'm having this problem, I'm thinking, I think this is why I didn't buy a sweater's quantity, was I couldn't find like 5 or 6 skeins that really matched well. because I'm worried that even if you alternate these, it's just going to look like weird stripes. So I didn't do very much, but I did add in this other skein, and I alternated it. I only did once. So I don't think it's very easy to see if it's working out or not. I need to do some more on this. However, this is the third skein that I bought here. And this one, I haven't balled it up, I was going to. I think this one matches this one. Now I do have 2 skeins of this at home, so I don't know what sort of color they're at. It's possible that this darker one could be saved and used for like ribbing or something where it's like, oh yeah, it's already kind of different, so it's fine. Depending on what the other skeins look like at home. But here is the plot twist. I thought I needed a longer cable for this now that I was joining it in the round and gaining more stitches. So I went back to the yarn shop. Whoopsies. That's what I was doing on my long walk with this little situation. And they randomly had another skein of this. Even though I had bought all the skeins they had another one of this colorway, which is the Hall's Quarry Quartz. And this one, again, matches pretty well with these lighter ones. And this is the darker. In this light, they look quite similar, but they're very different. You gotta trust me on it. You just gotta trust me on it. Anyway. So now there's 3 skeins of this lighter stuff. If I go home and the skeins match, I will have 5 skeins of this lighter stuff. Then I'll have this slightly darker one. And what I decided was, I'm still unsure about cables. I'm worried that the fact that it's dyed and it has this variegation to it is going to muddle the cables. Also, the pattern that I was really leaning towards was braids of grass, and I didn't technically have enough wool for it. Now I do. So, braids of grass is still in the running because I now have enough wool for it. However, if this doesn't work out in the alternating skeins, I might not have enough wool for it. So what I decided to do was to create even more decision problems by adding a different colorway. So this is the same dyer, and it's beautiful. It's the same wool, it's the same base. It's called Killarney Feldspar, and it says, Killarney, named for the town in Ireland, had a long history and even more interesting geology. I just love these geology-themed yarns. Straddling 2 district geological regions, there's a band of pink granite that feature prominently in the photos of the region. This unique pink rock was exposed after the last ice age, and its distinct color created the feldspar, one of the many minerals that can change the color of the stones in the region. Killarney is a popular destination for boaters, kayakers, canoeists, and hikers who come for the clear blue water, white quartz, La Cloche Mountains, and incredible vistas. And she includes like the picture that inspired the yarn on the tag. So that is pink granite. I love pink granite. Wherever I go, I find rocks and I take them home. And Holly calls it I call it my traveling. Anyway, whatever. I collect rocks. I love rocks. I think they're amazing. There's rocks everywhere. It's not a surprise if Holly opens a little bag, my partner, and there's just rocks in the bag. And she's like, oh, more rocks. Here you go. And like, we come home from a trip and just like jacket pockets. There's just rocks everywhere. I love them. So granite is one of my favorites. Beautiful, especially pink granite. I've been down the Grand Canyon a couple times and the granite there is amazing. I brought so many rocks back from Grand Canyon. So this is quartz, which I also think is gorgeous. This is granite, and it is a low contrast, warm toned, like very same family, but low contrast color work, which So there's some Petite's Knit Garden patterns with low contrast color work, which I'm obsessed with. So I was like, well, maybe I could do a Petite's Knit Garden pattern with color work, or another pattern with color work, instead of worrying so much about, because I think variegation looks quite nice in color work. I'm worried about the whole cables and messing up the yarn. So essentially I've created even more of a problem for myself now, because I now have more choices. More yarn, more choices. I can now do color work with this yarn. But I'm so excited! So I have to do some more swatching, and I was joking on Instagram with someone that I might end up just doing so much swatching I just have a scarf. But look at it, it does look like rocks. It looks like granite. Anyways, that's all for me. That's what I have for you. And now for at least I know one viewer, Lisa Petite, whose favorite part is to see the chaos that has been created by the podcasting. As I'm traveling, I don't have as much stuff and it's not quite as chaotic. However, it's currently chaotic because I've just done my laundry and I'm about to pack. So here is the knitting chaos. We've got all that stuff there. Podcasting chaos. And that's the laundry chaos. Irrelevant, but still chaotic. This is my Welcome to the Jungle project bag. And these cushions are so silly. I love this Airbnb. If anyone needs an Airbnb in Calgary, let me know, I'll send you them, because they're amazing. However, these cushions, I don't live for it. Anyway. More chaos. It's not that chaotic. I mean, I've created far worse chaotic situations in my time. In my short time as a podcaster. Anyways, so thank you all for watching and thank you for commenting. It makes my day. Sometimes it can be very boring at work and my favorite thing is to read and reply to comments on YouTube. So bring them on. Tell me what you're working on. Tell me how ridiculous you think I am with this whole situation. Tell me if you have ever made the honey clutch and if you like the pattern. But mostly tell me what you're working on and what you're up to and what you're drinking. Is it 2 glasses of different liquids? Or is it tea? I don't know why I'm still talking. I will see you in the Czech Republic. Lovely to see you again, and I hope that you take good care of yourself and that you listen to yourself and that you're patient with yourself. And also, as always, that you are not obstructed by perfection and you knit courageously on. All right, that's enough slogans. Thank you so much, Naomi. Goodbye. See you later. Please like and subscribe. Please. If you want to. You don't have to if you don't want to. Okay, bye.